just a small project. Okay, so how we can create a project, how we can push those projects from the Visual Studio. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a little bit of the Visual Studio 2019. Okay, how we can create a test plan. Okay, so test plan will be get executed. How we can look at something called how much test has been passed by the pipeline. So a few of the things about the pipeline we'll try to understand. It is not part of your, you can say, details is not there in the lab actually. So that I will try to understand here now. Okay. So let me go and start. So what I'm going to do here, first I'm going to create my own project. Okay, so I'm going to uh, develop or and I'll give git project. So this is a new project I'm going to create, git project. Okay, I'll keep the project as private, and for the version control I'm going to use git, not the DAVC, and the workflow item I'm going to use agile process. Okay, so that way I can go ahead and create a project, and you can put some description also that what the project is related to and other things which you can give you. So this is the one of the starting where you are going to create a new project into your DevOps. Once you created a project, you will be getting a blank empty project like this. Okay, so you just see that there is no files available and in the repository, so it's completely blank. It's a new project for me. And how I can go ahead and deploy our code. Okay, so first time you don't have a directly code available into the GitHub or you can say repo. Okay, so now I have to go and develop a project. So I'm going to develop a project into Visual Studio 2019. Okay, first time on the Visual Studio 2019, I'm going to just click on the continue without code. Okay, so there is some configuration which I need to set here. Okay, so I'll click on continue without code. I'm not going to develop a code, so it will open a blank your Visual Studio. Now in the tools section, click on tools, go to the option. Okay, click on tools and go to the option, and here you will find something called source control. Okay, so make sure you in the source controls drop down you have a git selected over there. Okay, git should be selected, and in the environment section there is something called preview feature. Okay, so just go to the preview feature and uncheck the new git feature checkbox over there. Okay, in the preview feature there is something called new git user experience. Okay, that you have to uncheck. I don't want a new or preview feature to appear into my Visual Studio, so just I'm going to uncheck that feature, and I'm just saying okay here. So now the configuration is set. Okay, what I have to do, I need to clone my repository from the DevOps to my local. I'll go here into the your blank project which I've created. There is a copy button available here. Directly you can click on copy button. Okay, to clone the repository, or you can select from this drop down to clone with the Visual Studio. Okay, either you click on this Visual Studio or you can directly click on this button and then you go and clone into your Visual Studio. Let me try with this if it's open with Visual Studio. Okay, you can see it's opening with Visual Studio, and no, it's throwing some error. Okay, that's fine. What I'll do, I'll just copy this URL. I'll go back to the project, and there is something called clone repository. If you go to the file menu, there is something called clone repository. I'll click on that clone repository. I need to provide the path of the repository which I want to clone, and this is the path where my code will be get copied from the clone repository. Okay, so currently I don't have anything, so it just you can say the placeholder will be get copied over there. I'll just copy it here. Okay, so I have established a relationship actually. Okay, so I have established a relationship from my Visual Studio to the you can say DevOps. You go to the down, there is a one tab called Team Explorer. Click on the Team Explorer and you will see there it will say that you don't have any project. Do you want to create any project here? So just click on this create a new project, okay, and which is going to authorize creating a new project here. Authorizing failed. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, I'm going to create a new project. Click on create new project and I am going to select a project, okay, called I'm going to develop something called class library. Okay, so I'm going to develop a class library with .NET framework. You can directly search here also, class library. Okay, so I'm going to develop a class library, a common framework which I want to develop. Okay, so class library with uh, .NET framework and C#. So this is what I'm going to select. Okay, this is the .NET framework application which I'm going to build, and that I'm going to use a C# application. I'll click on next. Okay, class library with .NET framework. Now I have to enter a project name here. Okay, I'm going to keep a project name called Arithmetic Library. Okay, so this is the name I have given. Other things are fine for me. Okay, only I'm giving the name of the project, and I'll just hit create. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a class library, and maybe I'm going to write some common class which I'm going to utilize into the different application or anywhere else. I can go ahead and do that. Okay, now this is my class. I'm going to delete this code. Okay, this existing class file I'm going to delete. Okay, I'm just going to delete, and I'm going to add a new class file. Add new class file, and this class file I'm going to give the name as arithmetic, and I'll say okay or add. Now a new class has been added. In this arithmetic class, I'm going to modify a class. I'm going to write something called a public class arithmetic. Sorry, see, public class arithmetic. I'm going to say I want to add a public integer. I'm going to add a method called int x comma int y. So this is the one of the method which I'm going to add. In this method, I want to give a return. I'm just going to return x plus y. That's it. Okay. Similar thing, I'll just go ahead and copy one more method. I'll write add and then subtract. Okay. I'll say x plus x minus y. So that's what I've did. Okay, I've just created a simple project, and now what I'm going to do, as we have already cloned this. So what you can see here, there is a down, there is arrow key, similar thing which we have seen into your in the Visual Studio Code as well yesterday. There is it will say you how many files is already available which I need to commit. Okay, so first option I need to do a commit. 17 changes are there which I need to commit into this project. I'll click on commit, and then I need to write some commit message here. So I need to write a valid commit. So always follow the writing a valid commit message into your organization whenever you are doing. Okay, so I'm just going to create it math class for add and subtract, okay, so those things you will be able to write here and just do a commit operation. Once the commit is done, now there is something called push is active, so there's unpush changes. I'll click on push. Now what happens, you are going to push the outgoing commit, so I'll click on push button. what happened now, my changes will be start appearing into your something called Azure DevOps. Let me refresh here and see if my codes are available into the repository. Now the codes are available. I'm good with that. So you can have arithmetic class available. You can look at the commits. You can see here this is the first started commit. Okay, so here we have started the work, and that's what it is. Commit is here. Okay, so this is a simple thing which we have did till now. Now we are going to develop a pipeline to build this class. Okay, so let's start building a pipeline from the scratch. I'm going to create a pipeline. Okay, now I'm choosing a classic editor pipeline. Okay, once you go to classic editor pipeline, it will ask you which project you have. So this is my project. Okay, this is my project name, git project. This is my repository, that is git project repository name itself. I have a branch called master branch. I'll say continue. Okay. Remember this step. Sometimes people ask you the steps as well, that what are the steps you follow to create a pipeline. Okay, so first we have to do select the project, repository, and then branch. Continue to next. And what kind of project you have. So this is my, you can say library, class library. I don't have this a web application or something called other application kind of thing. This is a normal you can say class library or console library. So for this we need to have a .NET desktop project. So .NET desktop project help you to build a class library, a Windows application, those type something called console application. Those things you will be able to build using a .NET project. Now you have to select a template. Look at this, you are going to select a template. Okay, now what template help you? Template help you to give you a predefined steps. So once I'm saying I want to select a template, so template means template is already having a steps defined for the particular work or feature, you can say. Okay, so for .NET Desktop, if I'm going, .NET Desktop is already having some steps which is required for the basic .NET project to build. If you go for the Android, means, and it will ask tell you that what are the things minimum is required to build a Android project. So similar thing we have here list. You can select any of the template which is required. If you don't want that, you can go always for the empty job. Okay, so you have to add one task additional. Okay, so you click on empty job. What I have to do, you have to go and add a task one by one. There's no task, you have to add a task here. .NET Core, I want to add something else, you want to add, just keep on adding whatever is required to build a project. Yeah, but that's fine. I don't want to do one by one. I'm going to use a template. Okay, I'm going to use a template, and template called a .NET Desktop template, and I'll click on apply. Once I click on apply, what happens, I got the steps here. So for the .NET Desktop, I need to have a NuGet package. I need to use a NuGet restore, but we are not using a NuGet as of now. Okay, it's a simple class. So that also you can go ahead and remove if it's not required. Okay. Uh, Now we have a build solution. Okay, it will build up a SLN file. So SLN file, whichever ever available in this location, it will try to build that. It will try to run a test assembly. So any test project are there, that will try to run. Then it will publish some of the file. Okay, then it is try to copy those to the staging directory, and it is copying the file to the drop location. And this is what drop location is important, to copy your to Azure artifacts to the Azure location. So by default it is copying to the Azure location. Okay, so Azure location, that's why I told you by default it maintain a container which is a part of your DevOps. If you are seeing a file share, then you can have your own server where you can put your artifact, like you told in the Jenkins and all. You can go ahead and put your this drop files to a particular to file share. So even you can have your own file share, and you can go ahead and copy those your build artifact to the particularly co-location as well. So this is just a simple step I've created. I can modify a name of pipeline here. So I can say this is my build pipeline. Okay, so this is my build pipeline for my Git project, and that is a .NET Desktop project which I have created. I'll say save here, and that's it for me for now. Okay, so I have created a project, and the project is fine now. Okay, now I can go ahead and queue this project. If you're saying a queue this project means you want to run the project and you want to select which which hosted agent you want to use. You want to use a Microsoft hosted agent, or you want to use a self-hosted agent. Which agent you want to use, you can go ahead and select. And this you can by default, why this is coming by default to me as a Microsoft hosted agent, because this is configured onto the agent level here into this tab. If I say I don't want to use Microsoft hosted agent, I want to use a Windows pool agent. So now that configuration is by default saved. Okay, and whenever I do a queue, it will take me to Windows pool and I can go ahead and run. And what I'm doing here, this I'm doing a manual run. Okay, so this is what it is called, a manual trigger. Now I'm doing a running a job and it will try to go and run on this actually. Okay, listening for the job, running the job. So it will tell you that running as this is a machine, this is the agent name, and it is trying to initialize the job. So it is trying to download a NuGet. Okay, let it get completed. So all the steps has came here after this code has been checked out. Okay, so you are basically you are checking out the code. So code will be get copied using a NuGet. So basically it is trying to download a NuGet. Okay, NuGet restore will happen. Now it is trying to build a project. So it is trying to build a project. Once the build a project of this done, okay, zero warning, zero error. So it is building a project on my machine. Now test assembly is running because I don't have a test assembly, that's why I'm getting a warning here. It is publishing the artifact and copying the artifact to the particular location. So this you can see that this DLLs get copied. Okay, and you got a 2 artifact which is going to get copied to the drop location, and here you are going to finish your job. Even if you click here and you can see your DLLs which was there is available into the release folder. These are two things which is got generated out of your project. So this is how you can go ahead and actually go ahead and create your own pipelines. Okay, let me edit a pipeline and show you some of the features here. Okay, so you can see here there is something called trigger. Okay, so this was the first task, and then you have a trigger. And what this trigger means, there's a three triggers which you have seen. Continuous trigger, so enable continuous integration. What do you mean by this? As soon as the code has been modified into this branch, the continuous integration will start. This is called a continuous integration trigger. Okay, next you have a schedule trigger. Okay, so let's suppose that I have a few developer who is working on this project, and they do they complete their activity by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in evening. Okay, once they complete that activity, they are going to push those changes by 7 o'clock. Okay, now once they push those changes, I'm going to schedule those thing to execute at particular time. Okay, so I can go ahead and define that I want to run uh, at 18 hours in the India time zone. So I can go ahead and define the time zone, and I can say save. What do you mean by that? You are saying that I want to run this pipeline. I'm going to schedule at from the Monday to Friday. It has to run at 18 hours in the India time. So this pipeline will start executing at that time. So you can schedule your pipeline based on your need. So once my developer has developed the code, completed the change, and daily evening or daily morning, I want to run a build, and once the build is success, I'm going to deploy into the testing environment so that next day tester once comes and they can start doing a testing onto the server. So those things I can schedule, okay, so that you can do, okay. And yeah, so I don't want to do that. I have shown you, okay. And okay, I'm going to do something called enable continuous integration. As soon as the code has been checked in, anyone is doing a code updating to this repository, I want to run a build, okay. So I want to do a build whenever the code has been checked to the master branch. This checkbox talks about the batch changes when the build is running. So anyone is changing that particular time when build is running, so that time you want to stop that. If build is running, it will not trigger, so that you can go ahead and check this checkbox, okay. So that's not required as of now. And what I'll do, I'll just save that. Now I'm enabling what I'm enabling continuous integration trigger. What do you mean by continuous integration trigger? Continuous integration trigger talks about whenever the code has been checked in or committed, I want to I want to run this build pipeline. Okay, let me come back here and go back to your code. I'm going to add one more method here, and I'm going to add something called multiplication. Okay, I'm going to add a multiplication, and I'm going to x into y. Okay, once that is done, I'm just going to save. Once you save, it is saying the one changes has done for you. Do you want to commit these changes? I'll say yes, I want to commit the changes. Multiplication method added. I'll say commit, and then I'll say push the changes. I'm going to push the outgoing changes, and once you push it's completed. Once the code is up to date, come back here and try to refresh, and you see here the build pipeline is started automatically. This is what it is called a continuous integration trigger. So as soon as the code has been modified into the repo, okay, so once the code is committed into repo, my build will execute, and build will go and start executing that build pipeline. Okay, so this is executing up, and you can see here this is the what comment has came. So anyone who is seeing the pipeline also, they can see, okay, someone has modified a multiplication method, and that is what happened in the master branch, and because of that it is running the changes here into the this. So okay, so that way your build pipeline will start executing, and you can see here my agent is also active, and agent is taking the request and running it. Okay, so that's also done here actually. Okay, so this was just more simple changes which we can do. Okay, a small thing which I want to also show you here. Okay, let's suppose that for the multiplication, instead of multiplication sign, if I do some mistake, okay, in the code. Okay, I do some mistake here into the code. Okay, I have did some mistake in the code, and I'm going to save the changes. Okay, now I can go ahead and modify this, and just commit these changes. Okay, because I have not created any test case, my build will be working fine. My build will work fine. There's no issue in that. Okay, so because I don't have any testing step added into this build. Okay, if you see here, there is no test script which is added as of now. If you go in the last run, if you see, this is was saying warning, no test source found into this project. Okay, so that's why this test script, vs test script, is throwing the warning for me. Okay, so this will not track any changes that what wrong you have did into the code. Okay, now I have to enable something called testing script. Okay, before that, let's suppose that every time whenever I do the changes, my build is triggering. Okay, but I don't want to do that activity. I want to stop that build. Okay, so let's suppose that I'm adding a comment here. Okay, so this is my arithmetic operation library. Okay, so I'm just doing that. Okay, I have added a comment. Okay, this comment, does it require to run a build pipeline? It's not required. This is just a comment which I added into code, and I don't want to run a build for this. Okay, let me check if build has completed here. Okay, build is completed. Okay, so that's fine for me. And what I'm doing, I have done a code change, but this code change, I don't want to run a build. Okay, so unnecessary, I don't want to trouble my agent to run a build. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just do a change, and what I'll do, there is a you can say the cheat code. Okay, cheat code is available, so you have to do a 3 star here. Okay, and then you say a no underscore ci. Okay, no ci means no continuous integration. So I'm saying to the pipeline, this code I'm doing a changes. Okay, and I don't want a ci operation for this activity. Okay, so I say 3 star for in the beginning, 3 star at the end, and in between I have to say no underscore ci, and I'll say commit. Once I'll do commit and I'll do the push operation, now the code will get changed, but my CI will not get triggered. My build pipeline will not get triggered. Let me try to check here if I'm good with that. So let me refresh, and you can see the build pipeline will not be get executed. But the code has been checked into the server. So no CI. So this means no continuous integration. That's not running. The pipeline is not running. For other three, pipeline has get executed. But this one, no pipeline. So that way you can little bit you can go ahead and do that. And I just wanted to show you about the test cases, so how that to add a test case to your solution. Okay, so you can right click on this solution and just go to add new project, and in the new project you just look for the unit test project. So whenever you are being a developer, you are doing a development, make sure you write a unit test case for your application. Okay, so you have to add a unit test project for the .NET framework, for the C#. Okay, because we have a C# project, and we are going to add a unit test project for the .NET framework. Okay, you can go ahead and select that, and you can go ahead and create a test cases for you. Okay, so unit test project for .NET framework, I'm going to say okay, and that's what you have to do. You have to just enter the name of the project. That's fine. Unit test project 1 is fine for me. I'm good with that. Okay, and I'll just say create. So another project, a unit test project, will be get added to your application. Okay, and that you have to we have to write some script, okay, or code to test that arithmetic library. To test arithmetic library into unit test project, what you have to do first, you have to add a reference of the code into the test case. Okay, so right click on the reference, add a reference. Okay, and add a reference of the project so that you will be able to access this DLL into the unit test project. I'll say okay, and now I have referred the this class library into unit. Now I can go ahead and access those library into the my test plan. Okay. Now what I'll do here, I'll go to the test methods. The first test method I'm going to write test method for the addition. Okay. Now I need to set some value here. I'll say int x equal to 4. I'm just entering a value, y equal to 5, int expected result. I'm looking for what 4 plus 5, it should be 9. I'm going to access a arithmetic operation. Now I need to add a reference of that class. So I'll say using arithmetic library. So this is the namespace, and I'm saying arithmetic dot arithmetic arith equal to new arithmetic class. So this is the I'm instantiating the class, and I'm saying int I want if I'm calling this arithmetic class, what value I am getting. I'm actually actual value which I'm getting from arith dot add method. I'm passing this x comma y, two value I am passing it here into the arithmetic class, and I need to check those value. So there is something called method assert are equal. Is this both the value expected and the actual value? Is this both are equal? And it will say if it's not equal, it will throw the error for me. Okay, the semicolon is missing here, and I'll just say save. This is just a test case I have written. I'm just trying to check my add method, okay, so which I have written in the class file. I'm passing the two value. The value will be returned by this value, okay. So actual when I'm calling this add method, I'm getting a 9, but I'm expecting also 9. If it's both are equal, my test is fine. How to test that? Just right click on this method and just say run test. Okay, it will open a window here, okay, and it will try to test this script, okay, and it will say what result I got it from this unit test. Okay, unit test is success. You can say this is saying that success, and if I go and check this, okay, so this has been executed and it was success and we are good with that, and this result is passed. Okay, so all those things you can see here. Similar thing, you can go ahead and do that. So if you are saying I want to do a commit changes, so all those are done. Now I'm doing I want to add this code, so I'll just say commit test is added. I'll say commit all, and I'll say I want to push the changes. Let me use the Microsoft agent. Okay, I'm just running this build with the Microsoft agent and I'll show you the difference what I used to get. So now the test script has been added. Okay, okay, so just running. Now you see the difference now. Okay, it is saying that your pipeline has been executed. Okay, so with this also you can see here the pipeline has been executed. Test case was success. Okay, one test was there, it was 100% pass. It took this much second to run a test, and you are getting a something called a success uh, trophy as well. Okay, so this has been done here. Okay, so this is what you can see here into this actually. And one thing you will see, this is test case, whatever I have written is 100% passed. Now there is something called a setup code coverage. What do you mean by setup code coverage? Okay, so my test is fast, no warning is coming here. Okay, and my agent was success. If you go to the test script also, it was no warning, it was everything was success over there. Okay, so that's way you can go ahead and execute your test result and you can see that. Okay, but here my test is 100% passed, and but I can't see the test code coverage. What do you mean by code coverage? Code coverage talks about how much you are covering the code using a unit test. You have written a unit test, but how much percentage of code is covered, okay, using a unit test case. Okay, so like you have written a three methods: add, subtract, and multiplication. Have you written the test case for all these three methods or not? That's what it is going to check for the code coverage. And we recommend, being an organization, whenever you are doing a kind of development, you make sure you write a test case for 80% code minimum. Okay, so that's what the standard which you have to follow into your organization. Okay, for this, what I have to do to enable a code coverage, you have to go and edit your pipeline. There is a flag in the test step, okay, to get a code coverage. There is something called the VS test. You have, yeah, code coverage enabled. Okay, this is the one checkbox which is going to calculate how much code has been covered or changed for you. Okay, so just you have to enable this task in the task section. Go to the VS test and enable this code coverage enable, and just you can click on save button here. Once you save, next time when the code is running, it is going to tell you that how much the code has been covered. Okay, how much percentage of code has been covered. Let me just go and queue this build. If I queue the build, I'll be able to see that how much code has been covered for that. Okay, by the time it is happening, let me do one more thing. Currently I'm doing this add test, and my test is getting passed because this is satisfying my result. Okay, I want to write some negative test now. Okay, I'm going to do a test method. Okay, I'm going to test the method, and I'm going to do this time, I'm going to add a multiplication. As you remember, multiplication, instead of a star I have given this percent sign, means multiplication is not returning actual the multiplication result which it should return. Now the code is wrong for me, and which I want to test using the unit test cases. Okay, so I'm going to test a multiplication, and I'm expecting 4 5s are 20. It should be the result if I'm calling a multiplication method. And if it's not matching, I'm going to fail the build. Okay, my build has to fail. How to test? Right click and run test, and you'll see the result will be fail for here. Okay, okay, the result is failed for transaction. Actual, it should be the 20, but I'm getting a 9 from the method. That's what the wrong which has happened. Now let me go ahead and push these changes. Before pushing the changes, let me see if my build is complete and it's showing the code coverage. Yeah, test is completed. Okay, so this is completed. Once you click on here, now you will see the code coverage. 80% code is covered here. Why it is 80%, that is I'm not sure, because maybe they're checking the line of code as well. It should be actually not 80%, it should be around somewhere, it should be 30-35%, but I'm not sure why this 80% is saying. And also you can see here, if you click on 80% coverage, you can download the code coverage result here. So it will download a file which you can open into your Visual Studio. Basically you will be able to open with Visual Studio Enterprise Edition. You will not be able to open with normal Visual Studio Community Edition. So this will throw the error. You should have a Visual Studio Enterprise Edition, then only you will be able to open this code coverage report. So this is the Microsoft strategy which we have for this. Okay, so that you will be able to download and check the report from the code coverage perspective. Okay, and let me go ahead and push these changes. Okay, whichever I have did added additional test case. I'll say commit, and I'm going to push. Now you see what happens next. Okay, so I have changed the code. Now again my pipeline will execute. My pipeline is running. And you see one thing here, if you go inside this, after the test has been failed, so it is going to test my assembly. Okay, and once the test is failed, what happened? I'm going to my pipeline is getting failed actually. Okay, so my complete pipeline will get failed because of that test case. Okay, so that's what the that's why the unit test is important, so that you are not going to push the wrong code into the different environment. Okay, let it run and we'll be able to see these changes. Mm, okay, so what we are seeing it here, and well, it's done. Now test will get executed. So test is getting executed now, and it should say test failed. Okay. Test failed. Test failed. Nothing has happened. Okay. So publishing path has not executed, and in the artifact nothing will be get copied. So that will be what it is happening. So now test is failed, and once the test is failed, what I have to do, being a DevOps engineer, or because I saw this test has failed. Okay, so test assembly has failed. Now I can go, and what I can do, I can go ahead and raise a bug for this activity, because I can see the test has failed, actual result should be something else, and the result which is coming from the library, which is something different. So you can see here, this is the multiplication which is failed, and you can see the result as well, which this is passed, this is failed, this is the error message, and you all those things you are having it here. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll go to the something called test tab here. Okay, I'll go to the test tab in the pipeline. Once you open the pipeline which is failed, go to the test tab, and you can see here the two tests was written, one was failed, one was passed. Okay, the percentage of the success was 50%, and which took 18 seconds to test the assembly. Okay, now you can see here this is the test which is failed. You can click on this, and you can just go and look at the result as well into the test tab here. Okay, if you select this multiplication here, you will be able to find there is something called bug here. Okay, so you can go and directly raise a bug from your build pipeline. Click on this bug and just create a bug, and you can just create a bug and you can assign to any of the developers. You can see here all the details has came here. Now you just say that, okay, I'm going to test failed already, subject has came. You can assign to any of the developer whom you know, or the group of the developer which you can go and assign. You can put the iteration as well if you know, otherwise fine. Being a DevOps engineer, you don't need to know all those things. You can just create a bug and you can just say, okay, I'm going to save and close. So one bug has been created, and once you go to your both section, you will be able to see the bugs which is assigned to that particular developer or anyone else. Okay, so directly from the build pipeline, if the build is failed, you can raise a bug directly from the here in the testing tab. So that's the one thing you can do that. Okay, another thing, instead of doing it manually, so what you have did, you have to keep on monitoring. If there is any failure, then you have to raise a bug. But I don't want to do this activity manually, to raise a bug manually to the developer, go here and create a bug. I want to do from this pipeline itself. So pipeline has to, when the bug is coming, I want a pipeline to automatically create a bug for me. So I am going to add a task here in this list. So I'll go and add a task, and that is called create work item. So there is a task already available that is called create work item, which is going to help me to create a bug or any other task, okay, automatically. Okay, click on create work item, and that create work item, sometime if you are not getting, there is something called get it free, you will be getting like that. So there is a button called something called get it free. Then you click on that, it will take you to marketplace. Okay, it will take you to the marketplace here, and from the marketplace you will be able to download or install that. Okay, okay, sometime you say get like this, get it free. Okay, once you click on get it free, it will take you to the marketplace. So this is a marketplace which you can find it. Okay, and this is also available into the marketplace. Okay, similar thing, which you have to get those additional component uh, from the marketplace to your Azure as well. Okay, so create work item, when you click, it will come get it free. Click on get it free, and which will get installed to your uh, DevOps. Okay, then only you will be able to use this task. Okay, so this task has came here. Okay, I need to move to the appropriate place where you want to do. After the build phase, I want to create a work item. Okay, in the work item, I want to do, I want to create something called a bug, something bug. Okay, so you can create anything. Okay, so you can create a bug. What is the title of the bug? Okay, you can give any title, or you can parameterize those things as well. Bug is created. Okay, assign to add, you can add area path, iteration, additional details, all those things you can add. Okay, or you can get the values from the test result, and you can put here as a parameter, so that you can go ahead and do that. Okay, using a variable and other things which you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to just save. Okay, now you tell me one thing. After this test case, okay, because my test case is failing, will this step will be executed? Okay, so answer will be no for it. Okay, because what happened, once the test case is executed, the subsequent below the steps will not be get executed. Okay, so that to execute those this step. Okay, okay, let me show you. Once I'll run that, you'll be able to see this create work item will not be executed once the test is failed. Okay, let me show you that. Then I have to change some configuration here for that. Okay, so it's executing the test case. So build is building the solution. Now test will get executed, and we'll see this create work item is executing or not, because once the test is failed, I want to create a bug, and we need to see this state is getting executed or not. Okay, so it's skipped. You can see here this task is skipped. Why this task is executed? Because the first task was failed. To, to do the changes, I have to go back to the pipeline here, and I need to modify the pipeline called create work item. If you can select this create work item, there is a down, there is a configuration into the control options. Okay, so all those tasks will have a control option. Okay, and that says that you want to run this task. Okay, when you want to run this task, so this is the task only when the all task is success. So above all the task is success, then only this will get executed. That I need to change, and I have to say only when the previous task is failed. So only when my test script is failed, then only I want to run. Otherwise, I don't want to run. If it's success, I don't want to create a bug. Okay. So only when the previous task is failed. Even you have custom condition. Okay. So you can define your customized condition, like what condition on which task you want to run this operation. Now I'll click on save, and finally when I go and save and queue this operation, okay, now it will go ahead, and after once this is done, my task my bug will be get created. So this is what you can do using a task. So this is what I want to show, how you can add a task into your stage. Okay, so that way you will be able to add a task into your pipelines. Okay, this is just an example, just a small example, like how you can go ahead and modify your task, add your task based on your requirement. Those things you will be able to utilize these steps, and the agent is will run those step by step tasks for you, and it will do the activity which whatever you have configured as part of your task. Okay, so let me show you here. Okay, now the test case is getting executed. Test case will fail, and then it will go and create a work item. Okay, test case failed, and it's creating a work item. If I'll go to the boards and try to refresh that, you can see this has been created. It's unassigned. I can assign to the team. I can look at the details, and then I can assign to the particular team who is responsible to fix this kind of issues. Okay, so that's the one thing which you can use the task stage. Okay, you can use the task to do this kind of activity. But this was just example, but I don't want to do being a task, because this options, the bug creation option, which is already available as part of your you can say the pipeline feature of the pipeline. Okay, I'll remove this task. I've removed the create work item task, and what I'll do, I'll go to something called options, and if you scroll down here, it's already there is an option called create work item on failure. It's already available predefined with the task. Okay, so you can go and create a work item on the failure, and if I'll say I want to enable this activity, okay, I want to create a bug and assign to the requester who is requesting this build. You want to assign the request to the requester, and just click on save. Now if you see here, now if the failure has happened in this pipeline, any failure, any kind of failure, either it's build failure, either it's release test failure, or any other step is getting failed, now I'm going to create a bug automatically from the pipeline feature itself. Okay, so that's what it is going to happen it now. Okay, so let me go ahead and fix those errors, and then issue fixed. Get this completed, otherwise another bug will get queued. So this is failed, and if I go back to my boards work item, and you can see here automatically up just now another bug has been created. Okay, so this is what the feature of the pipeline which we have. Okay, and let me fix that code and push the changes here, and now it will be, everything will be success. Changes has happened, issue is fixed. This is what the changes I have done, and all those commits you will be able to see here in the list commit. Okay, so all those are there. Okay. And process are running now. Let's see how much percentage of my coverage code is covered, and if it's success, what all those things we can see here. One thing you just see here, whenever you are doing pipeline, one thing you notice here, the status batch. So as of now my build has failed, that's why we got a status batch called failed. Okay, once those are success, we'll be getting something called success batch. So let's see if we are getting a success batch once this build is getting executed. Why again test has failed? Sorry, I'm still using a fixed. Actually, I was pointing to the different method itself. Okay, that's fine. Just waiting to get executed this one. Okay, so yeah, that's success. Okay, so the test case was success. It is completed. Okay, Okay, so everything is done. Now if I go back to this pipeline, which was success, and now I'll be able to see the percentage of the code coverage. 94% is showing, 100% is passed, and I'll be able to see the test result here. So 100% passed. It took around 50 seconds. I'm getting a batch of, say, this one. Code coverage report is available here. So these are the things you'll be able to see as part of your pipeline. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you in this as of now. Okay, and if you go to the if you try to edit this pipeline, there are a few things which you have to remember here. uh, so these are the tasks you'll be able to add. Okay, so first thing, you'll be able to add any kind of task, whatever the activity you want to do. Okay, you can always export this pipeline as a YAML. Okay, so always you have option here, whatever we have done a setup, convert, export as a YAML, and you can deploy as a YAML as well. Okay, so you can take this as a YAML and you can keep it into your repository, and then you can create a YAML pipeline. Okay, another thing which you will be able to do here, uh, okay, so few things to just remember. Okay, uh, you can add multiple agents. Okay, so this is the one agent job. Okay, this is the one agent job. You can add a multiple agents. Okay, if I want to add a parallelly, or you can say the after sequence, after one job I want to run another job, I can add another job. Okay, and then I can add another task into that. Okay, so something I want to do for the Android, or I want to run something called something. So Android or Xamarin Android, whatever I want to do, I can add multiple steps here. I can add whatever I want to do for my applications. I can go ahead and add multiple steps into the different agent as well. So one agent, I have another agent. Okay, so a multi-agent pipeline. This is called a multi-agent pipeline, which you can go ahead and add. Okay, so this agent does a job for the building application. Another agent can do some other activity. Even you have something called agentless job. Okay, you can add agentless job as well. Okay, so which doesn't require an agent to run. It can run without an agent. That's called agentless job. In agentless job also you can add a task. What are the agentless job tasks you can add? You can add some delay kind of thing. You can add some manual validation which you can add. You can add something called a query monitoring alerts. You can do a multiple agentless job which you'll be able to add, which doesn't require agent. Okay, which you can go ahead and run from the agentless job. So multi-agent pipeline you can build. You can add agents. You can add something called agentless job. Those you'll be able to do it here. Okay, so that is the one thing. Let me remove that now. So that is the one feature of the pipeline. Next comes to the variable. Okay, so you have a different kind of variables available into the pipeline. So there is something called pipeline variable. Okay, so generally if you see this pipeline variable, we are referring into somewhere in the task. So build configuration, team projects, so all these are referred into the somewhere in the task. Okay, so you can see here this build configuration, this is the variable dollar, in the bracket you are writing some variable. Build platform, this is a variable, and these are defined into the variable pipeline variable. So this is a pipeline level variable. What do you mean by pipeline variable? So you can say this kind of local variable. Okay, so whenever you want to change, you have to come back to this pipeline, modify, and just you can have to go and save. Okay, even there is an option called a variable outside of the pipeline, and then you can link those variable here. So there is something called a library. Into left hand side you can see the library. Right click on the library, open a new tab. Okay, then what you are going to do, you are going to add a library here. Okay, that is called a variable group. Okay, click on variable group. You are going to give the name of the variable group as per your need. Okay, so this is my variable group for the build pipeline. Okay, anything whatever you want to give, and then you can start writing the variable name here. Okay, I want to use something called server. I'm taking example of server name. Okay, server name. Okay, server name will be something called ABC XYZ, whatever you want to do. I want to use something called username password. I'll say user, and I'll give some value. I'll give a password. Okay, I'll give some value into the password. I can just click on this to hide the password as well, and then you click on save. Once you added a variable group, you can refer this variable group into this pipeline. Okay, so click on this variable group. You can find this variable group here, and you say I want to link this variable. Once you link this variable, you can directly refer this value into your pipeline. Okay, so I want to use this variable during the build section. I can say I want to have this dollar bracket. I can enter the variable name, and I'll be able to read the value directly from the variable group into your pipeline stage. Okay, so that you will be able to do using a local variable, that is a pipeline level variable group, which is a common variable which doesn't require any kind of modification when you are doing the changes. So directly you can go modify this value, and this value will start appearing into your pipeline stage. Okay, so that you will be able to handle all those variables from the external place into your pipeline. Okay, so that's the one thing. Even you have a predefined variable where you can define some of the predefined variable which Microsoft is already having it. Okay, so there is something called all the list of variables are there. Build, these are the variables which is Microsoft has defined. You can't use this variable as into your variable list. Okay, so these are the Microsoft defined variable. Build artifact, build ID, build number. So these are the predefined variables. So you have to understand the three kind of variable. Okay, you have a pipeline variable, you have a variable group. Okay, another is a predefined variable. Okay, so these are the predefined variable. They might give you this kind of thing. There are something called system variable. So you have a pipeline variable. Okay, then you have a system variable. So there are multi kind of variable which is available into the your DevOps. Okay, so that you will be able to see it here as well. Okay, so that's the one thing. Another thing, you have a trigger. So trigger, we talk about trigger. So one is a continuous integration trigger. Whenever the code is getting changed, you are going to trigger this build pipeline. Another thing, you can have a schedule. Okay, once the build completes, what you want to do, that you can go ahead and add that. Okay, so that is there. So this is the three kind of trigger you need to remember. Variable, I just talk about the pipeline variable, variable group, and the predefined variables which is available here. Directly you can click on this link and you can find out. Another, you have a trigger. One is a manual trigger, which I'm doing it from clicking on the Q button. That is a manual trigger, so manually I'm running it. Next, you have a continuous integration trigger. If you enable it, continuous trigger will enable, means whenever you are doing code change, automatically the build will start. Another thing, you can go and add a schedule of that trigger. Okay, so what time you want to, specifically what time you want to run a build. Okay, so you can disable this trigger, and for the specific time you can go ahead and running the build and creating artifact, so that you will be able to do. In options, this is something called a setting for your pipeline. Okay, so it's start from description. This is the build number format. You can go ahead and modify the build number format as well. So this is what we have seen, the build number. So that date comes with year, month, and date. That is the build number. Let me show you the build number here. So whenever you are running, this is the build number. So year, month, and date, and then the random number. So division number. Okay, that is there. You can go ahead and enable your build. So enable, disable, and pause. So three options are there if you want to do that. So enable means it will go ahead and queue and start the build. Pause means it will queue the build but it will not start. Okay, only it will queue to the agent but it will not start. Disable means it will not queue or it will not start. So both will not be happening with this. So this is the build stage which you can go ahead, and if you want to disable it, you can do that disabling as well. Okay. Other things you have here. Okay, so this one we have seen, creating a bug. You can see here we got a success badge for this pipeline because last time it was success. These are the few of the path of you can say the image URL or the branch repository URL. So those things are this is the path which we have for our project. Right side you can see here, this is the what the build job, so how long build has to be get executed. If you think that your build is taking more than 60 minutes time, you can go ahead and increase the timeout here. Okay, so you can go ahead and do the and increase your timeout of for your build. Okay, so currently my build is executing within 60 minutes, so we are good. But if you think my build is taking a longer time, or maybe you are running a custom PowerShell script which may be doing some other activity which is taking more than 1 hour, then you have to increase the time here, and you have to say that I want 120 hours to run this build. Like that, you have to go ahead and increase the timeout of your build. Okay, that you can do that. Another thing, I have shown you the retention policy of the build. So you just click on this is the organization level setting which you have to modify here, so that you can go ahead and change how long you want to retain that build. Okay, or build history. Next, you will be able to see that how many times the people has been modified. The first I have added this project, this build pipeline. Now I am keep on updating this build. Okay, but I found this issue that someone has modified the build and which is not working. You can go ahead and do the comparison with the previous version. Okay, you can do the comparison with the previous version. If you comparison, you will do able to find that what has been changed. So I have added a variable group in this. Okay, so you will be able to see that what changes has been happened. Okay, and you will be able to revert that I don't want a variable group relationship. I want to keep the existing one. Okay, you can go ahead and click on revert, and what happens, the revert will happen and the code will be get reverted. And if I go to revert variable group, the variable group has removed. Now what happens means whatever the changes has been done in the previous stage which has been got reverted. So this is what it is in the basically in the pipeline, and these things you will be going to use into day-to-day activity to configure and doing the work with the build pipeline. So this all about the build pipeline. Okay.